the Judiciary, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues, led by Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Amy Marcos, and our Minority Leader, former Senate President Frank Drilon, and Senator Francis Tolentino, who may or may not ask about his bar exam bar result in labor law. Chief Justice, I think he wants to ask about the prescriptive period, if it's from discovery of the error or if it's from the time of checking, Chief Justice. No, but anyway, we'd like to greet a very good afternoon to our legal luminaries present, led by, of course, our Chief Justice, Diosdado Peralta. I heard that Associate Justice Esmundo is also with us. Court Admin Maidas Marquez. Court of Appeals, we have Acting Presiding Justice Remedios Salazar Fernando, Associate Justice Lampas Peralta, Associate Justice Buiser, Associate Justice Sorongon. From the Sandigan Bayan, we have with us Presiding Justice Amparo Cabotahetang, Associate Justice Miranda, and from the CTA or Court of Tax Appeals, we have with us Presiding Justice Roman Del Rosario. Good morning, Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen. Did I miss out anyone, Comsec? Please call my attention if I missed out any one of our distinguished guests. No? First time po natin yung virtual, kaya pagpasensyahan nyo na po kung medyo may pagkukulang tayo ng konti. So I was told the order of questions is after we ask the presentation is Senator Tolentino, Senator Vice Chair Marcos, and Minority Leader Drilon. So without further ado, I give the floor to Chief Justice Peralta, sir.
Before Chief Justice Peralta takes the floor,
yes.
one manifestation.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
In my 20 years in the Senate, this is the first time that a Chief Justice is appearing to defend the budget of the Judiciary. And for that, Mr. Chairman, we approve it already without any presentation.
Yes. I would be the happiest man if everyone would agree. But I think Senator Tol has two questions. So tignan natin si Sen Tol and si Vice Chair Ivy might have some questions. But in that spirit, maybe we can start the hearing. Thank you, Minority Leader Drilon, and thank you, Chief Justice Peralta, for honoring us with his presence here, along with the other luminaries from the legal branch, from the judicial branch, rather. Go ahead, Chief Justice, sir.
Thank you, Your Honors. Court Maidas Marquez will present the budget.
Yes, please go ahead,
From
sir.
the Supreme Court, the Judiciary, and the Court Maidas Marquez will present the budget of the Supreme Court, the Judiciary, including the first level and second level courts, including likewise the budgets of the three collegiate courts, Sandigan Bayan, Court of Appeals, and Court of Tax.
I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of one of our committee vice chairs, Senator Bongo. I see he's also signed in. Good afternoon, sir. And I'll give the floor to Court Administrator Maidas Marquez, who is, as we all know, is the best basketball player in the Supreme Court.
That was 20 years ago.
Thank you, Senator Angara. Magandang hapon po sa ating mga senador, Senator Drilon, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Francis Tolentino, and Senator Bongo. Magandang hapon po. Briefly, I was tasked to present the budget of the Judiciary. So briefly, may I invite your attention, Your Honors, to the table that we have prepared, no? Ito po, you will see that our 2020 budget, the total is 41.23 billion. No? And then our proposed for 2021 is 55.88. But the NEP included for the Judiciary, the Judiciary's budget included in the NEP is only 43.54 billion. No? So that means there's a variance of 12.34 billion. No? Now, the variance can be broken down as follows, no? Sa Supreme Court, there's a variance of 9.23 billion. Sa Presidential Electoral Tribunal, there's a a variance of 19.41 million. For Court of Appeals, 2.17 billion. For Sandigan Bayan, 602.28 million. And for the Court of Tax Appeals, 320.68 million. So out of the 12.34 billion variance, the Judiciary is seeking for a reconsideration of 6.58 billion. No? Hindi na po natin hihingin yung buong 12.33 billion na variance, 6.58 billion na lang po. And that 6.58 billion can be broken down as follows again. No? For Supreme Court, we're asking for a reconsideration of out of 9.23, 5.7 billion, 5.07 billion na lang po for Presidential Electoral Tribunal. From 19.41 million, we're seeking 15.35 million. For the Court of Appeals, from 2.17 billion, it's down to 994.5 million. For Sandigan Bayan, from 602.28 million down to 406.4 million. And the Court of Tax Appeals for 320.68 million down to 98.5 million. Your Honors, we have actually submitted this PowerPoint presentation, and those items for consideration have been itemized for your Honors consideration. If your Honors would like me to continue, I will go over all the items for reconsideration for the Supreme Court, Court of Tax Appeals, CA, and Sandigan Bayan. But if your Honors would like to start asking questions already, then we will submit to your Honors' preference.
Hold on, Court Admin. Is that okay? We have notice naman of the presentation. Can we go straight to the questions, if that's all right with the members?
Giving the floor.
Is that all right, Minority Leader?
I would prefer that they go through it quickly lang.
Okay, so maybe in broad strokes, we can go through it, Court Admin. Yeah.
Mr.
Oh,
Chair, test.
okay, I will go through it briefly. So for Supreme Court,
kahit hindi na isa-isa yung projects, pero just in broad strokes, what the budget consists of.
Isidro.
yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Senator Angara. For Supreme Court, as I've said, the total amount for reconsideration is 5.07 billion. Meron po tayong mga creations for new positions, including family courts, and then yung ating pong judges at large. Hindi ho nalagyan ng budget for 2021, but the Judicial and Bar Council has already submitted a short list for at least 40 judges. The short list is now with Malacanang. And then meron po tayong mga upgrading of our clerk of court positions. And then also the hazard pay for our judges. Your Honor included 144 million for 2020. But budget. So we're already giving hazard pays to our judges, both first and second level. But again, this was deleted from the 2021 NEP. And then kasama na po dyan yung pension gratuity fund, and then training and seminar expenses, and then rent and lease of HOJs. Kasi marami po tayong mga bagong courts na wala pa pong courtrooms, and that is why we have to lease spaces for our newly created courts. So that's for the Court of Supreme Court and the lower courts. For Presidential Electoral Tribunal, for the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, we just had included some benefits, considering that the Presidential Electoral Tribunal is still deliberating on one case. So, and then meron po tayong for furniture, and then we were requesting for one transportation equipment, one van to deliver all these documents. And then sa Court of Appeals po, The total is 994 million 555,000. This is for benefits of our justices and employees of the and staff of the Court of Appeals. Kasama na po dyan yung mga training expenses, supplies, and then for also we're requesting for there's a transportation and delivery expense. Also again rent for our Court of Appeals in Cebu and the Court of Appeals in Cagayan de Oro, because we are still in the process of constructing our Court of Appeals in Cebu and in Cagayan de Oro. So in the meantime, we have to lease spaces for them. And then for Sandigan Bayan, the total amount for reconsideration is 406,406,000. There are new positions in Sandigan Bayan for the staff. And then some of the present positions have been upgraded. And then we're also requesting for transportation equipment for our justices of the Sandigan Bayan. So that it all totals to 406,406,000. And then lastly, for the Court of Tax Appeals, we are requesting for 98,489,000. Kasama na po dyan yung mga lump sum for step increments, longevity pay, other personal benefits, including health insurance premiums, and then also traveling expenses for our justices of the Court of Tax Appeals, their supplies, and then their maintenance services, janitorial, security, and other general services. So kasama po yung yung ICT equipment, desktop computers and other interconnectivity requirements. So ang total po is 98,489,000. And then before I end, Your Honors, we are again, as always, this has been the request in the last, I'd say, 8 years, yung sa special provisions po, dalawang special provisions, special provision number 2 and special provision number 7, because for special provision number 2, this has this concerns our SADS, because ang nakalagay po dito sa provision, this shall cease to be granted, so we just are requesting for rewarding. And this rewarding is also the uniform rewarded special provision which has been adopted in the last 8 years. Nandun pa rin, it's pinatanggal lang yung cease to be granted so that we can have more flexibility on how to manage and the SADS. But the figures, there's no extra request for funding here, doon naman po sa special provision number 7, this refers to our MOOE for the first and second level courts, because in the wording in the NEP, the MOOE will be given uniformly to all courts, but our proposed rewarding, we have to monitor all our courts, their caseload, and that's why, so that we can give the proper MOOE, the right amount of MOOE. It cannot be the same because all our courts have different caseloads. Some have a very low caseload, some have high caseload, and therefore their requirements are different. And that is why we have a proposed rewarding for special provision number 7. That's all, Your Honor. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Court Admin Justice Maidas. We'll turn it over now to our members. I think Senator Tolentino was the first to log in, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Senator Sani Angara. Chief Justice and members of the court, good afternoon. My colleagues, Senators Marcos, Relon, Bongo, and the others present. I have a small screen here. I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I was nudged by the Honorable Chairman to ask at least 2 questions. And in the interest of full transparency and disclosure, I admit I have 2 members of the bench who were my former classmates, namely Justice Alex Esmundo, my batchmate, and a year lower is Justice Agiwa. So I will not be, that will not constrain me from asking questions. Your Honor, I see in your budget the same provision for the holding of a bar exams. These are policy questions that you can probably answer. Will there be a bar exams this year?
Okay. We have already decided, Your Honor, that we will not hold anymore a 2020 bar exams. We have moved the bar exams instead to November 2021. So there's no more bar exams to the year 2020. So mangyayari dyan, pagkakasabay yung ano, those who are supposed to take the bar exams for 2020 will now take the bar exams November 2021.
Baka nakalimutan na po, Chief, yung pinag-aralan.
On the other hand po, mas mahaba yung, on the other hand ho, mas mahaba yung review.
Will there be 2 sites or only 1 site? Manila lang ba o there was a news about Cebu being a site of the bar exams?
We have already decided to hold bar exams simultaneously in Mindanao and in Visayas.
In Manila.
So 3?
Manila.
There are 3?
Yeah, three.
3 sites, 3
Three sites po.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Nonetheless, I see that portion of the budget for the bar exam still as part of the your budget proposal for the next fiscal year. Am I correct? That kasama pa ho.
Yeah. Kasama ko, ngunit kulang yung binibigay eh.
So,
We use, because of our fiscal autonomy, we use some of our savings for the expenses in the bar exams.
my other question was already asked by the minority leader. I probably would make a follow-up. Months ago, I invoked an old law relative to those who failed to have their medical board exams, but there was an old law that allows them to practice temporarily in view of the pandemic as doctors. And I would like to open the mind of the honorable justices that there is such a thing in other jurisdictions. Washington State, for instance, called diploma privilege. Once you're a graduate of a law school and there is an emergency, immediately after the emergency, you will be allowed on a limited capacity to practice. Has that ever crossed the minds of our good justices? Because I'm speaking on behalf of thousands of those who graduated
Those
last year,
student practice room.
will graduate
Those
this year,
student
will
practice
be
room.
spending a lot of resources to take the exams, and then will not be allowed to take the exams because there will be no bar exams. Is that a possibility because the Supreme Court is in charge of the licensing, among others?
Ang counterpart natin yung law student practice room.
Yeah, we do not have yet that practice, Your Honor. What we have is that
Law student practice room.
the law school practice,
Law student
law
practice.
student practice. During their 4th year, I think, 4th year, they're allowed to appear before the court, but with assistance of a supervising lawyer. So I think what they do in Washington is that they go on their own. But here we are, I think this will be implemented in 2021, where a law student, 4th year law student can appear
Ngayon,
with the
ngayon,
assistance of a
2020.
supervising lawyer. 2020, with the assistance of a supervising lawyer. Mayroon po kasi yung magpa-practice ng law without the hope eh.
Yes, thank you, Chief Justice. I think that's being done in other jurisdictions. There is a mentorship program, and that will be in lieu of a bar exams. you're supposed to be under the tutelage of a practicing lawyer for a certain period of time, years, and then you will be allowed to, you'll be given a license to practice. California is doing that, and other jurisdictions. Meron ba hong ganung plano tayo? Ang two batches na ito? Because we don't know how this pandemic, when will this end?
Yeah, walang bar exam. You mean we will forego with bar exams? Is that your first question, Your Honor?
There are jurisdictions that could serve as an example. California, for one, that if you're under the mentorship, the tutelage of a lawyer for a certain period of time, or doing some clerkship work for a judge, you can be exempt from the bar exam.
What now allows that? No student.
Yeah, that is already allowed under Rule 138. We just amended Rule 138.
So they will be allowed to take their own.
138.8.
So would that mean?
No, before they pass the bar. This one is before they pass the bar.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand. And lastly, so that my other colleagues can ask questions, there is now a move, likewise, because we're not the only ones confronting this crisis. There are moves, and in other jurisdictions, Michigan, District of Columbia, Louisiana, also a civil law jurisdiction, and then New York, to have online examinations.
We are thinking of that, Your Honor. We are considering that.
For this year or next year?
Probably next
Changing
year.
the rules of court.
Wala na this year.
Next year.
Yeah, next year probably, not this year.
Wala na this year, Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No bar exam this year.
Computer.
Wala
Thank
na
you.
masyadong tanong because as what the minority leader said, we have to approve the budget. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Senator Francis
Move the line
Tolentino.
to the approval of the.
Malapit na, Chief. Malapit na. Palagay ko maiksi na lang to. I think Senator Go wants to make a manifestation. If it's all right with our colleagues, mabilis lang yata. I think it's in support. Vice Chair Senator Bongo, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maikli lang po to. Wala po akong question. Express my support for the Supreme Court and the entire judiciary, one of the three co-equal branches of the government. As our society follows cannot flourish without functioning courts. It's very important for the judiciary is sufficiently funded so as to enable it to render its crucial mandate. I ask the judiciary to continue to implement measures and programs which will not only improve the performance of the courts, but also and equally importantly rid itself of the bad eggs which tarnish its reputation. After all, a healthy, independent, impartial, and corruption-free judiciary is essential to a country which follows the rule of law, such as ours. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Salamat.
Full support po ako. Full support po.
Thank you also.
Full support
Thank you
po ako
very
sa-
much,
Thank you.
Vice Chair Go. I'm sure the judiciary is very appreciative, as you heard. So now the next is Vice Chair Marcos and then Minority Leader Drilon. So Vice Chair Marcos, go ahead. Vice Chair Aimee, you might be on mute. Vice Chair Aimee? Vice Chair Aimee? I don't hear her. Maybe I'll go ahead to Minority Leader Drilon then, and then we'll get back to Vice Chair Aimee. Go ahead, Senator Frank.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And once more, let me place of record our admiration for the Chief Justice who has personally appeared. This is the first time a Chief Justice appeared in a committee hearing of the Senate, and it is a manifestation of the respect he has for our institution, for which we should be grateful and should approve his budget immediately. In any case,
Thank you, po. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
just a couple of questions. Midas, I did not fully appreciate the special provisions that you were requesting. Can you explain it a little bit? What is the difference?
This is about the
Yes, what is the difference between the present special provisions and what you propose to
Sige.
Para wala na.
Your Honor, the first special provision is provision number 5. Two, rather. This is about the SADS,
yes,
the special allowance for judges. Yeah. The SADS is actually being sourced from the fees that we collect
we understand.
under Rule 141.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was as early as, I think it was in 2012, where the DBM at that time instructed us to stop the giving of the SADS, because the SADS was actually an advance of the increases. So there was a SADS law that for every 25% of the basic pay shall be in the form of SADS, which will become the salary increases given within a 4-year period. So when the whole amount was already incorporated in our basic pay,
Yes.
then we had this instruction from BBM that it should now be stopped.
Okay.
There was a petition from the Judges Association that we should continue. I mean, the DBM should or we should continue to receive the SADS. So I think the agreement then was that part of the basic pay, part of the SADS, part of the fees rather, shall be remitted to the Treasury
Yes.
in order to complement the salary increases that was given by law after that. So every now and then when we have this budget, they always include in that provision to stop already the giving of the SADS. But every time that we go to Congress and to you, we do our explanation, we reward that special provision so that our judges, those who are direct beneficiaries of the SADS, will continue to enjoy the SADS as decided by the court. Parating tinatanggal yan. So every time that we appear before you and to Congress, dapat ibalik yan. Because yung SADS naman is not funded by taxes eh. It is funded from the fees that we collect eh. And for the benefit. I think that was the law. I think you also joined Senator Angara then, because he was the father of Sani, or the sponsor of this law eh.
Yeah.
So every now and then, pag meron kaming budget, rene-reward nila. And the effect, they will understand from this provision, the effect is that the direct beneficiaries will no longer receive the SADS. Of course, the indirect beneficiaries will no longer receive the SADS.
Okay.
They want that to be retained so that we
Yes.
continue receiving the SADS.
Okay.
That has been done for the past 8 years eh. But every year yan, tinatanggal.
Oh yeah,
That's the special provision too.
We can assure you,
No, siyempre.
we will retain it
Yeah.
so that you will owe the Senate something, Mr. Chief Justice.
We always include it, Your Honors. We always include it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's an interesting question
Yeah, but kung
cropped up recently.
Yeah.
Mr. Chief Justice, Mr. Midas, I assume for this year, just this year, you had items which were increased by Congress after the submission of the NEP, or the so-called insertions or amendments from Congress. Is that a correct assumption, sir? Meron bang dinagdag?
Yeah, I think so. Last year, you mean yung 2020, you mean? Oh,
Yes, sa 2020, as against the President's budget. May dinagdag ba ang Kongreso?
Yes, we added the Minority Leader. We added. The Senate added, actually.
Yes. How much?
pero,
How much? Okay.
pero yung 2020 budget ko,
Okay, may dinagdag.
I can yeah, yung hazard pay
Hazard
ko.
pay.
Hazard.
The hazard pay ko
Okay.
was introduced
Hazard
by
pay.
Senator Sani
Okay. Now,
Angara.
okay.
But that is
recently, Mr. Chief Justice, Mr. Chair, there was an issue that cropped up insofar as the COA is concerned. There were increases in their budget upon the initiative of Congress.
That's correct po.
Yes, but the Department of Budget, when this was supposed to be implemented, indicated that this is for later release. So there was an issue as to whether this violates fiscal autonomy of constitutional bodies, because under the decisions of the
Special
Supreme
provisions, Chief.
I was the respondent in that case. There is supposed to be an automatic releases
Correct.
as part
Regular.
of the fiscal autonomy. Now, in the particular case of COA, the budget took a position that it is for later release. When the ombudsman, who is a former member of your court, who was present, we asked the opinion of the ombudsman. He said, if I were the COA, I'll file cases against the DBM for violation of the fiscal autonomy. Now, my question, Mr. Chief Justice, do you have also Senator Sani said there was a hazard pay. Was this released to you by the budget? Or was it also subjected to for later release clause?
No.
No. Hindi po. Sa ombudsman lang ginagawa po yun eh. Sa Supreme Court, they do not do that po.
No. It's with
But anyway, I think
with the COA, Mr. Chief Justice. It was the COA whose additional budget was withheld for later release. And it was the view of the ombudsman that this violates the cases decided by the Supreme Court, where I was the respondent.
That's correct.
Which required that for
That's
fiscal
correct.
autonomy, it should be automatically released. That is why I'm not
That's correct po.
I'm asking if you are similarly situated.
Yeah. Wala po. We did not have any experience that. They always release the funds to us without delay.
So wala
Ang
hindi
kagulat po namin- Hindi ho. Problema na ho namin sa hazard pay. I think in the NEP, tinanggal po nila yung 144 million hazard pay because according to them,
Walang
that is a congressional initiative. So it does not anymore appear in our budget as approved by the NEP, as proposed by the NEP to Congress, yung 144 million as hazard pay. Kaya nakikiusap kami that should be written because I do not know if they can do that because that has been already in the budget
Yeah.
For 2020.
for 2020.
What they forget,
No, we can.
they forgot, Mr. Chief Justice, is that the budget, the Department of Budget and the executive cannot reduce your appropriations, and therefore they must retain that.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
Yes.
But it's not there. That's what. That's correct po.
Constitutional. You cannot reduce the budget of the judiciary from where they,
This budget.
yes, from the previous budget. That is why that is fine.
Yeah.
They must. So if it,
That's one of the items in the MR, Your Honor.
yes, okay, Mr. Chairman, if that is one of the items, I don't think there is any debate on that because that is a constitutional requirement. So
Why don't you,
Wala na kayo sa item.
Minority Leader, why don't you move so they will? That's another favor owed, Your Honor.
let's get
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, seriously, the budget should be conscious of their these constitutional parameters. They cannot just, unlike capital outlets, which like social justice, we should not reenact because the item is fully served. But in terms of salary, we should be careful about this. Now, which brings me to the point. So I hope that if the court administration can help us and point out to where this item, and we can assure you that you even have
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sure they will give us a very detailed listing or love letter, Your Honor.
Yeah.
now,
Yes.
we
It was the truth.
Mr. Chairman, we passed in
One foot
bill
from 2020.
allowed appointments of judges at large because of the uneven docket load of various second level courts all over the country. May we know if this has been implemented and if there is a budget for these judges at large?
Actually, that's a congressional insertion for 2020, Senator Frank, no? Pero dito daw, according to Justice Maidas, tama ba? Walang funding for 2021, Chief?
Yeah, wala pa po, but we have already recommended several candidates to Malacanang. 20 second level courts judges at large and 20 first level court judges at large.
Now, okay, wait, Mr. Chairman. This is in the budget, in the General Appropriations Act as a congressional amendment. Is that what I hear? Correct? Is that what
No, I think it's already.
Is it on the 2020 General Appropriations Act?
I'm
The
checking. Let me confirm that, Minority Leader. But go ahead, ask your questions. I'll get back to you.
Yes. Because if it is,
There is.
huh?
Meron no sa 2020.
For 50.
For 50 judges at large.
Yeah.
For 2020.
Is that carried again in 2021?
Wala po.
Diba?
Wala na.
For the record, Minority Leader, there was 126.47 million inserted by the Senate in 2020. But apparently, it is not in the 2021 budget. So I think they're turning to us once more, and I'm sure we will look favorably upon it, Your Honor.
Yeah. So again, Mr. Chairman, may I know if this was released?
Ano rin kasi yung chief yung 50.
Was it released?
For
Your Honors?
50.
Wala pa.
Yes, for 2020.
Na-release po
Yes.
siya for 2020? Na-release, oh?
Yes.
Na-release.
For 50 slots of 50 positions for judges at large. Pero sa 2021, tinanggal yun.
So the budget for this was released.
Yes, Your Honor. For 2020,
Yes, of 2020. And yet, it's not included in 2021?
It's not there.
daw,
That's
wala
right,
daw.
Your Honor. Tinanggal din.
You should give an extra.
Nawala.
How does budget expect you to pay these judges that you appoint pursuant to the budget of the General Appropriations Act of 2020 when nothing is provided in 2021? Ano ba yan?
Senator Frank, one moment. I'd just like to acknowledge one of our colleagues, also a legal luminary, bar top notcher, Senator Coco Pimentel. Good afternoon, sir.
May I ask the Chief Justice if the act of the DBM is contemptuous?
Nobody's asking for set them in contempt po naman eh.
No, I'm just kidding. Again, this is another instance of the less than of the lack of diligence in arriving at the budget of the Supreme Court. Number one, they're not conscious in the first instance that they cannot reduce the budget for the following year. That's constitutional. And number two, worst, they allowed the appropriations to be spent, the appropriations for the current year to hire judges. But once you hire the judges, you do not have a budget for next year. Ganun ba yun?
Parang gano'n lang ako.
Sa tingin ko.
Ano ba yun? Now, sige, so I think we should make sure that, Mr. Chairman, our respectful submission is that these are not budget items which the judiciary would have to plead for, because this is as a matter of right.
You are entitled.
They're entitled to this. I'm talking about items, no? Hindi naman tama yan, because that's part of the fiscal autonomy outlined in our constitution. Therefore, that will be violative of that principle. So other items in your current appropriations are deleted in the proposed 2021 Justifications Act. I will repeat, Mr. Chairman. Can the Chief Justice or the Court Administrator advise the committee of any other item appearing in the 2020 General Appropriations Act, whether proposed originally by the Judiciary or was a result of congressional amendment, are not appearing in the 2021 National Expenditure Program. And the prior question, of course, is were all the congressional initiatives were released to the Supreme Court, to the court?
Sir, actually, all the congressional insertions made last year, no, for 2020 budget was removed for this year, no. Kasama na nga po yung hazard pay and then this salaries for our judges at large, no. And then there were a few more items that were added by Congress, no, during I think your BICAM session. Professional services, and other repairs and maintenance of buildings. Tinanggal po lahat yun for 2021 NEP.
First question.
So, Your Honor,
First prior question, Mr. Midas. Were they released? Were the congressional insertions released?
for 2020, yes, all congressional insertions were released for 2020.
All right.
So for
Okay.
2021, nawala na po sa NEP.
Yeah, but depending on the
Ang isa pa pong one more item, Your Honor, for the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, no? The budget, the 2020 budget released for the Presidential Electoral Tribunal is 148 million for 2020. In the 2021 NEP, it is down to 142.76. So mas mababa yung for 2021 NEP kaysa sa 2020 budget for the Presidential Electoral Tribunal.
I am not prepared to say that the same treatment of the same prohibition exists for the PAT. Maybe you know better than us, but I'm just talking about appropriations in the Supreme Court itself or in the judiciary. And so at least it is, sir, Mr. Chief Justice, if you can provide the committee with the items which were repeated in the 2020 para po malaman namin. This early, maybe there is a basis for not funding capital outlay which were already executed in the current year. For example, just theoretically, a Hall of Justice or which was funded in the current year should not be repeated in the
Of course.
insofar as say salaries.
Ginagawa naman po yun.
Iba naman yun. So just on those parameters, if we can have the data so that we can analyze and know how to treat your budget, Mr. Chief Justice.
We will do that, sir.
Yes. And then I would just to place of record that in last year's hearing of the Dangerous Drugs Act, Dangerous Drugs Board, upon our strong representation, we got the cooperation of the court administrator in ordering the judges to burn and to destroy dangerous drugs which are stored in the dangerous drugs in the bodega because of the recycling issue. We have inserted this as a way of promoting the recycling, and it was last year when we every time this is brought up, I kept on reminding the judiciary that the judge must be present in the burning and just get a sample to be submitted in evidence. I think it was last year, it was this year, when the good court administrator finally issued the administrative. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that correct, Mr. Midas?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Senator, I was in a meeting with a former PNP chief, and that is where we laid down the procedure on how the drugs should be destroyed immediately after it is seized, no? And immediately after the issuance of that OCA circular, I was maybe 2-3 weeks later, I was invited by the PNP chief and the PIDEA chief, no, to witness the destruction of drugs in somewhere in Cavite. So I think they were able to destroy some 12 or 2 tons of drugs were valued, I think, around 12 billion.
Because this is really a cause of concern, Mr. Chief Justice, because stored in the bodega of the enforcement are tons of confiscated illegal dangerous drugs, and which are not being destroyed, notwithstanding the provision of the Dangerous Drugs Act, which we inserted. So I'm glad that this year we already saw the administrative order being issued, and we do hope that Mr. Administrator Midas, we follow this up because marami pang naiiwan dyan eh. In fact, when the budget of the DD
For inventory.
come before us, again, I will ask the same question on the inventory because this is very dangerous. And we do hope that we can continue this campaign, which is destroy and destroy this.
Constant coordination.
So we will be monitoring this continuously, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Senator. Actually, I'm in constant coordination. I'm in constant coordination with the PNP chief and the PIDEA chief. Kung meron po silang mga bagong nahuli and kung malaki yung volume, so that we can monitor and then we can actually advise the judge to right away issue the order of destruction.
Sir, you don't, maybe waiting for the volume. I don't know what we're talking about. Just the spirit is we must do everything to prevent a recycling of this confiscated drug. We have the legal authority under the law. All right, and just one final point. Upon the strong representation of the Chief Justice when he was, he was still Associate Justice, there was a the Congress was asked to amend the penalties under the revised penal code, which where the penalty was based on money values. And unfortunately, the money values or the monetary offenses were based on values as of 1932. And therefore, if you apply it to present values of the currency, it would border on being how do you call that? Unjust imprisonment.
Punishment.
Punishment. We passed a law upon the strong representation of our Chief Justice, and it is supposed to benefit convicted felons who were convicted under the old system and therefore this would have it would resulted in their being discharged.
Use the penalties accordingly.
Yes, may we know?
Especially of those appeal
Do we have any report, Mr. Chief Justice, as to how many cases how many of our finally convicted prisoners were benefited by this law, and therefore the conception of
We cannot determine of the exact number, Your Honor, but there were thousands. There were thousands of convicts who were released because of that new law. And there were also those who pleaded guilty and then applied for probation. So it's not only those who were convicted who benefited by that law, from that law rather, but those who were charged under the old law and decided to plead guilty as charged now because of the change of penalty and then applied for probation.
I see.
There were also those who benefited, those cases pending appeal, because you also amended the law on probation that
Yes.
if the penalty reduced by the appellate court to a probational period, and there were many cases because of that new law amending the penalties. There were also those who availed of probation because they can avail of probation under also your amendment that if the penalty is reduced to a probational period, then they can go back to the court of origin and apply for probation. So it's not only those who were convicted by final judgment, but also those who were facing trial and those cases that were undergoing appeal in the Court of Appeals. Marami po yun. Sa tingin ko, thousands yun eh. In fact, we only anticipated mga few cases lang eh. Because when we decided, the first case that we decided is the case of the Sandigan Bayan, Hernan versus Sandigan Bayan, incidentally, I was the ponente. We never expected there will be a lot of petitions that will be filed. Kasi in that case, we just advised those who were convicted and serving sentences in Muntinlupa to file before the court their petitions because it's only the Supreme Court that can amend a judgment that has already become final and executory. But after that decision, we were flooded with a lot of petitions and we can no longer handle them. So through Justice Hardilesa, he came out with another decision allowing now the regional trial courts in Muntinlupa to entertain the petitions and then change the penalties in line with that Hernan versus Sandigan Bayan and the new law, amending the penalty. So marami pong nag-benefit yan. Sa tingin ko, thousands po yan. Marami po nag-benefit yan. Even now, those who were charged, those who are now being charged with estafa, for example, of less than 2.2 million. The penalty is now less than 6 years. They opt to apply for probation. Plead guilty, then apply for probation. Marami pa yun. That's why we are also solving the problem, in a way, the problem of congestion in our second-level courts. Marami pong nag-benefit dyan, Your Honor. Those two laws, yung probation law, we are also the author, and that RA 10951, the law that amended the penalties in the revised penal code.
Yes. Would it be possible, just for the record, it doesn't have to be accurate to the last case, but can the court administrator give us a report as to the approximate number of persons?
We can do that, Your Honor.
Yes, if you can do that, just for the record.
For benefit. Yeah, we can do that. We can submit to you, Your Honor, within 10 days. I am now instructing the
Yeah.
to submit the report to you within 10 days from today.
Yes, Chief.
Anyway, kung naman tayo, computerized na kami, Your Honor eh. With the added budget, mas maganda pa marahil ang internet natin eh.
So thank
Sige
you,
po.
Mr. Chairman. Those are all from my end. We just take note, and we hope that the committee secretary can take note of the points that you have raised, so that the chairman and the committee can be reminded on the decision points that we have to make when this matter is submitted to the plenary. With that, I want to thank the Chief Justice for
Thank you po.
for giving us the honor of answering questions in this budget hearing, and also to the court administrator. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We will. The committee will remind
Thank you po. Thank you, sir.
the court, Senator Frank. I think Vice Chair Amy is back with us.
Yes,
Vice Amy,
yes, apologies
yeah,
po.
here next after you, Senator. Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Apologies po. I was in the TESDA hearing. As you know, there were always double bookings these days. Quick question lang, yung Sandigan Bayan suffered a huge reduction of 32%, whereas their caseload clearly hasn't been reduced by a third. So this may be one of the reasons na pinapa-abolish na ni Justice Martinez yung Sandigan na baka walang suporta. Ba't ba nangyari yun?
Ombudsman. Your Honor, ang pinapa-abolish niya ata, ombudsman eh. Hindi po yung Sandigan Bayan.
Hindi yung Sandigan, yung ombudsman na mismo.
Yung ombudsman.
No, but yung Sandigan po, bakit 32% yung budget cut for 2021? Ang bigat naman. Wala naman decrease of cases na 1/3.
32% ang budget?
Oo, ayun ang nabasa namin. Ang budget niya, may reduction ng halos
Siya maririnig doon,
32%.
Chief eh. Dito na siya po siya dito. Dito. The presiding justice of the Sandigan Bayan will answer, Madam Senator.
Okay, Maidas, fine.
Yeah, go ahead, PJ Kabutaitang, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. That is correct. The DBM has reduced our proposed budget by almost 603 million pesos, Your Honor. And
What reason was
these
given?
are, well, there was no reason given, Your Honors, actually. But we simply submitted the NEP, and we submitted our budget proposal, and they came up with the NEP, Your Honors. And this amount reduced actually pertains to personnel services, maintenance and other operating expenses, and capital outlay.
Ang laki naman. Did you attempt to appeal or derive an explanation? Because this is the most substantial reduction I've seen so far.
Yes, Your Honors. In fact, we sent them a letter dated July 20, 2020, requesting for a reconsideration of the amount that was substantially reduced.
Wala pa silang reply?
Well, none, Your Honor.
Dito na lang daw ay sa Congress.
Based on experience, Your Honors, they don't, DBM does not normally reply to a motion for reconsideration that is filed.
DBM is superior to all the courts. So, I think perhaps, Mr. Chair, and to all my colleagues in the Senate, siguro dapat tulungan natin yung Sandigan, hindi naman yata tama yan.
Yes, I agree.
Lumulong yung caseload nila. Mabigat
We agree.
yata.
We agree, Vice Chair Amy. Very good. Very well taken. Ang mangyayari dyan, baka appeal to God, as one lawyer said.
That is correct. Indeed. Yes, DBM only talks to God. Okay, the second thing would be also in the capital outlay budget, allotted to constructions of new halls of justice. Wala, gentle reminder lang, as happy as I am to see my kailyan, CJ Dado, the judiciary continues to squat on provincial property in Ilocos Norte. Baka naman mabigyan na kami ng korte sa Lawag.
We just received nga, ma'am, yung letter ni Governor reminding us about the property that you donated kasi
It was not donated.
si Justice Maidas will explain.
Maidas, I think it was never donated. It was just lent free of charge.
Ma'am, we are expecting to receive the detailed engineering and architectural design within the month,
For a
or
new,
maybe
for a
middle
new
of next
building?
month.
Is that for a new
Yes, ma'am.
building, Maidas?
For the new Hall of Justice po, yung bago kung saan natin itatayo.
And I think
So
it's not
hopefully
just,
before the year ends,
okay.
before the year ends, we hope to do our we start the construction before the year ends for the new Hall of Justice in Alawag City.
Thank you very much, Maidas. Mukhang mas takot kayo kay Governor Macho kesa sa akin. Ako talaga eh. Okay, so tulong-tulong na lang. We certainly don't have enough new halls of justice, kaya nga yung capital outlay sana. We also do not have enough judges, ano? Alam natin yan. Ngayon, itatanong ko nga, I remember Justice Andy Reyes in the CA, and before he retired, repeatedly spoke about digitizing the caseload, updating and everything. Do we have any concrete efforts to fast track and modernize all these requisites now, particularly with COVID, that we have to do teleconferencing hearings, e-notarization, and the rules of court need to be updated to accept testimonies over the internet. Are there any actions towards this regard, both in terms of capital outlay and in terms of the changing rules of the times?
Yes, Madam Senator. In fact, at the height of the COVID, we distributed platforms to all of our courts, no, and nationwide. And we're very pleased to inform Your Honor that as of September 22, 2 days ago, we have around 93,469 online or video conferencing hearings conducted by our courts nationwide, with a success rate of around 87%. So we plan to continue with this one for 2021 and onwards, and we are also reviewing our court management systems and try to also, of course, automate all those. No, so
Yes.
kasama po rin yun sa motion for reconsideration namin because we are requesting for we want to upgrade, no, our bandwidth so that we can have a better connectivity for our courts, no. And we are also, of course, doing away with submission of manual reports. Lahat po electronic transmission na po from our courts to the Supreme Court.
Yes, I think among the changes that practicing lawyers eagerly await are changes in the rules of court, also with greater liberality for electronic testimony and e-notarization and so on. Meron na ba kayong moves towards that direction? Kasi parang may nababasa ako kung minsan sa Jalo.
Meron na kaming rule on the e-notarization, Your Honor.
Yes.
It's already in effect, but that is interim. In other words, in the meantime, because we are finalizing a permanent rule on e-notarization.
Yes, CJ
Now, so far as
filed a bill for e-notarization, pushing it forward. I don't know if it will help.
Yeah.
Basta tulong-tulong na lang tayo dyan.
No, yes, ma'am. Yung sa video conferencing, ma'am, in Sandigan Bayan, they have no specific rule on video conferencing because we do not have problem in Sandigan Bayan because yung jurisdiction na kasi ang Sandigan Bayan is national in scope.
Correct.
Dito sa first level court, second level courts, their jurisdiction is only within their territorial jurisdiction. So
Yeah.
sometimes there are problems if a judge can hear a case outside of the territorial jurisdiction, but we address that problem. So that in the meantime, we can use video conferencing
Yes,
in certain
perhaps,
cases. But in testimonies, yung sa testimonies po ng criminal cases sa first level at saka 7-level court, may konting limitations doon, ma'am.
yeah.
Hindi namin magagamit fully because there might be questions of constitutional questions that may be raised. But
Yes.
in
That's right,
cases
CJ.
other than criminal, not face that's a problem. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I understand, CJ. This is talaga, this is a learning curve for everyone. But let's consider that this is not interim, but in fact, it's really and truly the new normal. Siguro, like they say, let's not let a crisis go to waste. It's an opportunity, and it's really an opportunity to digitize. I have no questions, Mr. Chair. I simply would like to endorse and augment the budget of our judiciary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair
Thank you.
Amy.
Maraming salamat.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Before I recognize Senator Coco, I'd like to manifest that our Vice Chair, Senator Joel Villanueva, is also expressing his support for the budget of the judiciary and any other amendments or augmentation that we can make, but that he is chairing a subcommittee on the budget of TESDA. That's why he cannot be present, but he expresses his support for all the courts present here today, Chief Justice. Senator Coco, are you here, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon po, Your Honors, Chief Justice, and all of the presiding justices. We will always be supportive of the budget of the judiciary, even, full support means even adding if necessary, because we know the critical nature of the justice system, not only for the economic development of a country, but maybe even for the survival of the state. So that's why I am, Mr. Chief Justice, I talked to our fellow lawyers for feedback in their practice, ano yung mga problema, ano yung mga reklamo. We will never have a perfect justice system, but our justice system must be acceptable to the people and trusted by the people. So kahit evolutionary siguro yung improvement natin, okay lang po yun. No? So ang tanong ko po, kasi one of the common complaints that I get when I talk to our brothers and sisters in the profession is the delay they encounter in the system. So we have heard we have heard the mention of the use of computers, mga ganun po. In your budget, sir, in the budget of the judiciary, how are we going to use some of the amounts in order to address the complaint about delays in the adjudication, in the decision of pending cases? Hindi lang po sa litigation, but even including the appeal stage. So is it can we use technology to keep track of the aging of each individual case, including those on appeal?
Thank you, Senator Pimentel. We already actually have what we call the e-court program, no? And now this is a work in progress because while we have started this 5 years ago or even 6 years ago, we continue to develop some challenges, no, concerns, and that is why we are trying to perfect this system. The e-court program or system, no, will track a case from first level court, municipal trial court or metropolitan trial court, all the way to the Supreme Court, no, and each first, second level courts, the CA, Sandigan Bayan, and CTA is also part of the e-court program. As I've said, we are still developing this and perfecting the system. So for 2020 and 2021, kasama po yan sa ating budget. That's for the e-court system. No?
So
That's a case management system.
so
that each court also, no, dun kasi nga case management system yan. Each branch in the first and second level will always be advised, no, of how long that case has already been pending. Doon po sa mga rules natin, like let's say a continuous trial guidelines, no, in criminal cases, there are timelines, no, where the court should already order certain or resolve the case, no, and the e-court system will alert the judge if the timeline has passed or is approaching, or if let's say PDL is involved in a case and how long the PDL has been detained in jail. So lahat po kasama sa e-court system.
Parang last 2 minutes ba yan, Justice Maidas, sa basketball?
Basketball na naman.
Parang last 2 minutes.
Ah,
Pwede.
Tapos po, in our constitution, meron kasi yung parang merong deadline to decide cases at the different levels when they have been submitted for decision. So,
Submitted for decision. That's right, Your Honor.
what is the observation of the Supreme Court? Have our different courts been complying with the deadlines provided in the Constitution?
In the rules that we have promulgated recently, in the rules on civil procedure po, probably when we were students, we realized that in all these rules, the rules of court, wala pong periods to walang timelines po doon. Especially in civil procedure, one timeline. Now effective May 1, so that we can monitor the performance of each of the judges, we now provided timelines po. So in a civil case, the civil case should be terminated within 180 days from the start of the trial. And then the decision should be rendered within 90 days from the time the case is submitted for decision. And the counting is not from the filing of the memorandum. Even if the memorandum is required to be filed, that should not be included. That should be included in the 90-day period. That's one. In continuous trial cases, likewise, we have already provided timelines.
Criminal cases.
In criminal cases, we have provided in the rules that an accused must be arraigned within 10 days from the time he's committed, or within 30 days if he is at large or then arrested, and then the initial trial should start 30 days from the arraignment, and the trial period should be within 180 days, within 90 days to render judgment. So a criminal case should not last more than 10 months. In a civil case should not likewise, that will include the promulgation of judgment, and a civil case should not last as a rule more than 10 months. And it's now easier to monitor the performance of judges, because if we conduct the audit of the cases that they handle, we just rely on the periods. If they comply with the periods and they do not comply with the periods, then they will receive love letters from the court and then require them to explain why they were not able to comply with the periods. And we have been succeeding. We have been succeeding sa continuous trial, because the continuous trial in criminal cases was introduced as early 2017. But insofar as civil cases are concerned, we only introduced this last May 1 of this year. Medyo mahirap pong kasi mag-amend ng civil procedure because of so many complications, so many pleading. Lahat po yun, we have already addressed the problems. Then we have also the rules on small claims, where if the amount is not more than 400,000 in Metro Manila, and the claim does not exceed rather more than 400,000, then the claimant can go to the court without the need of a lawyer, and the case should be terminated within 31 days. And we are also
One hearing only.
and one hearing only, and then decision should be made within 24 hours. And we are also succeeding. So we have implemented all these rules to address the problem of delay in the courts, Your Honor. There are other special rules that we have adopted timelines, like in the writ of amparo, writ of kalikasan, complaints in environmental cases, intellectual property cases, cases involving admiralty cases. All of these cases now have timelines. They have to follow the timelines, and that if they do not comply with the timelines, then they will receive some letters of requiring them to explain why they cannot follow the rules that we have provided, Your Honor.
So thank you for that, Mr. Chief Justice. So at least kasi that was the loophole in the Constitution. Since we at least it's good we realize it, and then now we have more or less an idea. A civil case should not last more than 10 months from filing.
10 months.
Ganun po, no? So
10 months. 10 months from the pre-trial.
10 months from
10 months from the pre-trial.
10 months from pre-trial. So yun na lang po. So but slowly but surely there will be some in reality or in practice, we will also realize that maybe there will still some loopholes, then dandahanin po natin yun. Maybe from filing to that trial.
Yeah.
And then even after the decision kasi, sir, sometimes an MR is filed. So now how long will the motion for reconsideration pend? Oh, so yun po. So pwede
Mayroon na pong time limit to resolve the motion for reconsideration po, not more than 10 days from submission. And motions should not be there are motions that should not be heard anymore.
Yes, sir.
That motions that should be prohibited, should be immediately dismissed. Mayroon na pong yan. Then we have already simplified po ang pleadings in civil cases. Evidentiary na po ang pleading. Wala na po yung allegation of ultimate facts without attaching the evidence. Ngayon po, you state the fact and then support it with the evidence.
It's a review of
And
pleadings.
then all testimonies now in civil cases should now be in affidavit form. Of course, subject to cross-examination. Mabilis na po.
Sige po, basta po ako, I will continue to talk to our brothers and sisters in the profession, getting feedback, para po we will continuously improve our justice system, and legislators, we can help through the budget. So andito lang po kami, Mr. Chief Justice, to help you. I hope you don't mind the giving of the feedback so that we can also address
Okay lang po
the
yun.
concerns of those actually living through the rules of court and the justice
Yeah, we
system.
know. We are of that. Meron kaming special request po, if you can help us thus also, in order to solve the problem of court delay. We propose an amendment to the concerning the jurisdiction of the first level courts. Meron pong pending dyan. We talked already to Senator Gordon, and we are seeking the support of the members of the Senate. Insofar as Congress is concerned, there is also a bill expanding the jurisdiction of the first level courts. Kasi po ang nangyari ngayon, when the jurisdiction of the first level court, I think it was introduced in 1997, yung money claim po ng first level court is 400,000 jurisdiction in Metro Manila and 300,000 outside of the province now. But, the value of peso is already, mataas na, mataas na. And then also the other one is the assessed value of real properties. Ang assessed value under the present provision is only 20,000 assessed value. Real property or real rights. So most of those cases are lodged before the RTC. Now in the RTC, we are flooded with a lot of drug cases. So we want to unload some of the cases from the RTC to the first level courts, especially those civil cases. Now, our proposal is to increase the jurisdiction of the first level courts from 400,000 to 2 million pesos. So that if we increase the jurisdictional amount in the first level courts, we can amend our rules on small claims so that instead of a 400,000 threshold amount in small claims, we can increase it to 1 million because it's very fast to resolve the small claim cases. Now, those cases involving real property or real rights that are now in the RTC, if we increase the assessed value, kasi wala na pong assessed value ng 20,000 sa Maynila eh. 20,000 yung assessed value. That is 3 times lower than the market value eh. So we are proposing a 200,000 assessed value for the first level courts so that these cases now in the RTC will go to the first level courts so that they can concentrate on the many cases that are being filed in the second level court. If that one will become a law, I think it will be a good help to the court in reducing the dockets of the second level courts and increase the jurisdiction of the first level courts. Amend the rule on small claim so that there will be more cases, subject matter, and the small claim. In that way, we'll be able to reduce the dockets not only in the second level courts, but also in the first level courts.
Chief, what about periodic indexation? How do you feel about that? Para may automatic adjustment na rin.
Periodic indexation.
Pwede rin.
Pwede rin.
Yung gradual increase every 5 years.
Hindi kasama sa billion, Chief.
Kasama doon
Meron
sa
na, okay.
proposal ho namin.
Has the bill been filed in the Senate, Chief? Na-file na ho ba?
Yes, meron na po eh. Meron na po eh.
Nagiging na tayo, Chief.
If that will be passed, I can assure the Senate that our performance will be much better with all the rules that we have already. And with that amendment, Mabilis po eh. Because what we will also do is that those cases that are subject matter of the first level courts that are filed first level court, probably we can limit the remedies available to the losing party. Eh. We will just say the RTC, the sustains the finding of facts of the MTC, probably we can say final and executory finding of facts that those cases will not reach anymore the Supreme Court. Sorry. Hindi na, it will end in the Court of Appeals. Yung po ang programs ng Supreme Court. I hope you can help us on this.
Sir, we already had hearings before the Senate, maybe 3 or 4 hearings on this bill already. So baka sa plenary na yata yan.
Mr. Chairman,
Chief Justice, kamusta naman yung tutak na BP22 cases? When I was practicing, parang half the dockets were BP22. Is there a way to declog the dockets of the BP22 cases, or is there a way to facilitate?
Yung BP22 po kasi, under the rules and criminal procedure, that is only the crime where the civil liability cannot be filed separately under the rules. Kaya yun, BP22 now is the subject matter of rule and summary procedure. So regardless of the amount, pupunta po sa first level courts yan.
Good. That's good, right?
Mabuti ho yun.
I think
The only
Senator
problem
Drilon
is
wants
most
to
of
ask
the
something.
cases involved.
Yes. With the indulgence of Senator Pimentel, Minority Leader, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned about the jurisdiction on money claims being indexed to the money values, to the exchange rate or whatever, to indexation of prices.
Assess value in.
Ang kaya nag-propose.
I have a proposal, Mr. President, which I want to test. The fixing of jurisdiction is basically a legislative function because we fix the
That's
jurisdiction.
correct. Yeah,
Is
that's
there
correct po.
anything unconstitutional about delegating this to the Supreme Court, delegating the jurisdiction of the lower courts as long as we have appropriate standards? Because, for example, indexation is a standard. And on the basis of the standards, the Supreme Court can now fix the jurisdiction based on the indexation. This is actually a delegation of the power, which can be done.
Legislative, yeah.
Power.
There is a standard. Now,
Standard.
is it possible to expand this interpretation and have a set of standards which the court can look at in order to fix the jurisdiction of the lower courts periodically, not only on indexation, on all other. In other words, if you can help, if this is,
Why not?
no, I'm not kidding, Mr. Chief Justice.
That will be,
If this is
that
feasible,
will be a good.
if this is
Yeah.
possible, I will personally ask the court to give us the standards that they feel is necessary in order to judge whether the jurisdiction should be revised. Because you keep on coming back to us and say the jurisdiction for third level courts is very low, etc. Kami naman, hindi naman namin we don't have the details on all of this. That is why my proposal is for the court to advise us, as to what standards you would like to have in a law which will allow you to fix jurisdictions. Is that a feasible proposal?
We can study that. We can study that, Your Honor. But that will be a good help to us.
Yes,
Your
please submit your recommendations, Chief, pursuant to what Minority Leader Drilon and Senator Pimentel have suggested. One thing for sure, no one will declare that law unconstitutional, Minority Leader. No?
Yeah, and really, it can be defended, Mr. Chairman, because this is nothing more than a delegation of legislative authority to
Yes.
fix the jurisdiction of the courts. There's nothing unconstitutional about this. But you
Yes.
can delegate this as long as there are standards, which standards will craft in close consultation with the Supreme Court. It can be done, in my view, Mr. Chair, and that would be a good achievement for this Congress if we can do that. Then, we can, the court want us to pay but themselves if this is not,
Yeah.
gawin natin, Chief, gawin natin.
Pwede po.
Gawin
Yeah,
natin.
I will, like tomorrow, I will try to create a committee in the court to study that proposal po, so that we can propose. Probably we can use the standards being used by BIR, yung mga zonal valuation po.
Yes.
Di ba meron review ng zonal valuation, market value of the BIR. Probably pwedeng gawin. Periodic valuation.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minority Leader.
The other proposal that I have, Mr.
Yan ang pwedeng ng institution, hindi kasama yung
Mr. Chief Justice, the other proposal that I have is this. In civil cases, I underscore, why don't you require as part of the rules that the memorandum submitted by the parties include draft of a decision? So that when the plaintiff,
We can do that.
huh?
In fact, in one of the special rules, we allow
If I'm Mr. Chief Justice,
Di ba meron tayo sa
I were the plaintiff,
memorandum?
if I were the plaintiff and I file a memorandum, if I attach a proposed decision, I try to make it as strong as possible because it is to my interest. The same with the defendant. Respondent, they will also draft a decision which they feel can stand scrutiny and appeal. And all that the judge will do, of course, he's not bound by this. He can draft his own her decision, but then he can have already as a guide. He can adapt, he can revise, he can reject whatever he wants to do. Because a memorandum is actually a draft of a decision. Ganon naman yun eh.
Yeah.
So, why don't, I'm suggesting to you a way by which you can lighten the load of the judges. As long as it is open, there is nothing, hindi yung tinatago na ibigay mo sa sa judge yung proposed decision. Ito, it's on the record, you have submitted a draft, and it's up for the judge to choose. Is that contrary to public policy, Mr. Chief Justice?
I think there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we are allowing it in a special rule on intellectual property cases. There is a special rule on intellectual property cases. We allow that po.
Oh, yan pala eh. So,
Memorandum decision.
maybe
Ang problema
you
po-
consider.
Yeah. The only problem is that the judge will have a hard time rendering a decision because two memoranda is very strong eh. Baka mas lalo mahirapan yung judge mag-decide.
Ganun din. Whether or not there is a draft decision, mahihirapan din siya eh. Kung mahirap talaga, mahirap.
Mahirapan.
Di ba? So
Mahirap
at least,
talaga.
mahirap talaga. Let's face it. When the judges would rely on their clerks of court or the researchers to draft the decision. And of course, they say, all right, draft the decision in favor of the plaintiff. Ginagawa naman talaga yan. My suggestion is to, and here again, this is all transparent. Both parties are charged to submit a draft decision. I am submitting this to the Chief Justice as a possible way to expedite the resolution of cases and the system hopefully will hasten decisions. And they say in civil cases lang and special proceedings. Could the court consider this, Mr. Chair? Mr.
Yeah,
Chief
we can consider that, Your Honor. Any suggestion that will hasten the resolution of cases, accepted po yan.
Yeah. Yes. Well, this is in our effort also, since we are members of the legal profession, officers of the court, this is our submission. And we do hope that the court can consider these two areas, of the legislative authority to fix the jurisdictions of the first level, second level courts, or whatever, below the Court of Appeals probably, or Sandigan, and the Court of Tax Appeals below that.
Walang
Number two,
Yes, Your Honor. Ayusin namin.
as part of the effort to facilitate the decision, a draft decision be included as part of the memorandum. Of course, memorandum. Anyway, Mr. President, that's all that I'm suggesting that, and I thank the good justice, the Chief Justice, for considering these suggestions that we are submitting in our effort to help the court. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minority Leader. We'll go back to Senator Coco. Magaling talaga yung mga bar top notchers namin dito sa Senate, Chief, as you can see, no? They're very fertile with their ideas. So go ahead, Senator Coco.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For now, at least I have raised the issue of, or the feedback of delay in the system. And from the extensive discussion that we have had, that means that everybody is aware of the situation. So yan naman importante, awareness first before we can propose solutions and then in the end solve it. So, and then of course, the evolutionary approach is acceptable, na dahan-dahan po, but the life of the rules is experience. So kung okay lang kay Chief Justice and to all the presiding justice, if we continue as policymakers, if I or we continue to be in touch with those who are living out the rules of court, practicing our profession, get the feedback from them, and then relay it to the courts kung ano po yung observation so we can address this. So, pero Chief, ito na lang po yung last point ko. Kasi even if we provide a let's say a time limit from event A to event B, so kunyari ang example ng event A is from submission. So you must render decision 90 days from submission. In real life, sir, it is ang nadidribble po, ang nadidelay is to reach that point of from submission, event A. So if we can slowly study the situation on the ground and how also to provide a time limit or time guidance so that we will reach event A and then we will have the absolute time limit for event B to happen. So that's my final point, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the time that you have given. Thank you, Chief, and all.
Thank you to our top notcher, Senator Coco Pimentel. Yes, please, Chief Justice.
Yeah, can I say something about the observation of Senator Pimentel?
Go ahead, please, Chief Justice. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Senator, it's now like this, in civil and criminal cases should be submitted from the time the testimony of the witness is terminated. So if the testimony of the last witness of the defendant is today, then that the counsel of the defendant should immediately rest his case. Once the case is rested, then the court will announce that the case will be decided within the 90-day period. That is also true in criminal cases. If the accused presents his last witness today and there's no rebuttal witness on the part of the prosecution, then that case should be rested. The objection and the offer should be made, and the resolution on the offer should be made by the court on the same day, and then announce immediately the promulgation of the decision, which is within the 90-day period. Kaya yun po ang timeline nun. So the timeline is announced the moment that the last witness of the party is presented. Oral po na lahat kasi yun under our rules eh.
Thank you, sir. But also take a look at the appeals process, sir. Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, Senator Coco Pimentel. I'm sure the bar appreciates your constructive suggestions, sir. Any other questions from the body? Maybe we can let go of our very busy magistrates. Senator Tolentino, anything else? You're on mute, sir. I'm tempted to ask Justice Esmundo if you were a student. But I won't ask him. I won't ask him, Senator Tol. So no other questions from the body? Okay, thank you very much, Chief Justice Dado and Justice Mundo and Court Admin Justice Maidas, sa lahat po ng nag-attend din sa Court of Appeals, Presiding Justice Fernando Salazar Fernando, Justice Lampas Peralta, Justice Bucer, Justice Sorongon, and Presiding Justice Kabutang, Justice Fernanda, PA, Presiding Justice Del Rosario, salamat po sa
Sila mag-fix ng jurisdiction.
thank you very much, Senator Villa, who just who dismissed the budget of the judiciary, sir. Would you want to ask questions?
No more, no more, no more.
Maraming salamat.
Just ibalik na lang ho yung hazard pay. Tsaka yung SADS, wag na matagal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will take up all your suggestions favorably.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
I think Justice Midas will submit to you.
Yes,
I
please.
think, Mr. Chair, the presence of the Chief Justice requires an increase in budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I see him on my Senator. Yes, you have the floor if you want it, sir.
Senator Drilon yata.
Bumalik ulit.
Who has the floor?
Senator
Mr.
Revilla, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'm in the full support of the immediate approval of the budget of the judiciary, one of the co-equal branches of the government. In fact, I don't have any questions. It's just a manifestation of support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chief, thank you pa.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
po.
very much, Senator. Thank you very much, Senator Bong Revilla. So, if there are no other points from our colleagues, we thank our magistrate for coming for this budget briefing, no less than the Supreme Court Chief Justice, the good men and women of the judiciary. Maraming salamat, sir. We will do our best for you. Thank you po.
Maraming salamat din po.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honors. Thank you, Your Honors. Wish good afternoon po. Thank you.
Thank you. Pahinga ka na, Sani.
Oo nga. Pahinga na tayo, Amy. Apo, Amy. Senator Bong, thanks for making habol. Salamat, Minority Leader. Salamat, Senator Tol, Senator Coco, Idol. Thank you very much to all of you. Salamat po.
Okay. God bless.
Ingat. See you guys.